Hail the Blizzard!
I don't care how I feel. I ignore it. Ignore how you feel.
But what's a great metal band, but with a really horrible band name?
I love the band, but that has got to be one of the dumbest names I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, someone spilled water in my fat bag of weed.
Some bands that are canceled now and shit. But
Fuck metal.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Blyzzrd Show. Today, I am joined by drummer of the blackened metal sensation known as Nite. We have Mr. Patrick Crawford here. Today, we're going to be talking about the band's newest release, The Cult of the Serpent Sun, which came out earlier this year on March 14th via Season of Mist Records. And you guys are going to be going out soon on tour. In a couple weeks, you're going to be going out with Savage Master on an East Coast run, featuring a lot of really killer support on all these dates, including Spider to Breaker to a bunch of really killer bands on all these dates. Patrick, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing all right. It's a sunny day in San Francisco, and I can't complain, man. I'm here.
Nice, dude. Nice. Yeah, same. Jersey's finally shining. We had a lot of rain this past weekend and all that, but now we're finally shining and summer's finally kicking off. But yeah, man, let's get into it, dude. So you and Nite have been around since 2018, if I'm correct, right?
Correct.
Nice, nice. So tell me a little bit about like those early days of the band, like when you guys first started the band early on, because I know it was mainly you and Val doing a lot of the stuff.
Van.
That's where I got
Yeah,
that
yeah.
wrong.
No sweat, man. It's totally cool. Yeah, we started the band in 2018. Van is originally from Athens, Greece.
Okay.
He grew up, so he's Greek. He's a Greek national. He lived in Berlin for a while, and I think he did a little stint in England also. And then he got to San Francisco by way of LA. So he was in LA for a bit. And just through the heavy metal music community, we had some mutual friends in Berlin. And so when he arrived in San Francisco, he really wanted to get this band off the ground, and he was looking for a rhythm section. He's a guitarist. So through our original bass player, a guy named Brian Coons, who's still a very close, dear friend of ours, killer fucking dude, awesome bass player. He hooked us up with Van because they had a mutual friend in Germany. And then, we met up just at a local bar and just fucking talked about heavy metal, like our history. Like we're all kind of like about around the same age. And it just kind of clicked. And he sent us the demos and they sounded phenomenal. And so we were like, how do we sign up? What do we do? How do we get this off the ground? We were stoked. So Brian and myself already had a rehearsal space in San Francisco in the city, room we're still in. And, we just started rehearsing and working on the songs because Van had demos that were so fully formed that when I first heard him, I was like, dude, this is a record. How are these demos? These sound phenomenal. Van is a recording engineer by trade.
Okay.
Also. He's a guitar teacher. He kind of like lives and breathes guitar. So, and music. So his recording and engineering skills are off the charts. And so these demos sounded killer. I was like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want a live band. I don't want to be a one-man band. I don't want to be a demo, band. I don't want to be a bedroom project. Like this music needs to be in front of people. So that's what we were able to do, bring the live element to the band.
No, definitely. And I can hear it too. Like, so did Van do all the recording and engineering for all the past three albums too, including this one?
That's correct. He does
Like,
all of not only the recording, but pre-production. He demos everything with a lot of times with like full kind of like arrangements, and even like he'll even program drums. Not that he's like, telling me what to do. It's not prescriptive, but it's just kind of like to have a backbeat. Like, hey, I kind of think
yeah.
it's this tempo, this BPM, this kind of feel. And then we'll work in pre-production for months and months to get it ready to record. He'll record everything in our own studio, and then he mixes and masters and does every part of the process. So like,
He's like
it's
a one
cool.
man
Yeah,
trip
it's
with
cool.
it all.
Yeah, it's like we're lucky. We're very fortunate to have him be sort of he's a visionary, and he like kind of really brings it to life for sure.
Absolutely. And he's the vocalist too for it.
Correct.
So he
And
already has the sign. Everything's just in his head with everything.
yeah, but to be honest, we all work on lyric and vocal ideas together. Like it's sort of a collaborative effort. He comes up with the structure and he's like, I kind of think it should be phrased like this. But as a non-native English speaker, and all our songs are in English,
Mhm.
um, he kind of sometimes wants help with like phrasing or words, or he'll use kind of a phrase that he thinks is cool, and it
Mhm.
might be like, does this make sense in English? And I'm like, no, but it sounds really heavy metal, so we should do that. And
Definitely.
I mean, personally, I kind of prefer that. Like our good friends from Oakland, Necrot, it's like a similar thing with Luca's like he's Italian, so he
Yeah.
doesn't English is
You,
not his first language, and the way that he phrases things and words things and the delivery, it
mhm.
just sounds really cool and unique, and not the way that a fucking white dude from Ohio would say it. Like it's like like I'm like just like I'm like the most like fucking American like redneck motherfucker ever. So like I feel like
Uh,
everything I say sounds really dumb, but when it's like a European guy saying, I'm like, whoa, that sounds sick. I love it.
it sounds so foreign. It sounds exquisite.
Yeah. But I mean, dude, and another like touch point for me with that is one of my favorite bands of all time is Celtic Frost. And
Hmm.
like Hellhammer and early Celtic Frost, the way that Tom phrased things, like, and the way that he pronounced things, because like it just because they did everything in English, but like the way that he said dethroned emperor is like, what the fuck is this guy saying? But when you like realize the words and you're like, that's so awesome the way he pronounces it. It makes it, I feel like it makes it special. It makes it unique.
Hmm.
It gives it
Adds a
some
different
flavor.
layer of like just there's a certain uniqueness that flair is added to it. And
Totally, man. You
and
nailed it.
definitely point with Luca too. I was did an interview with Necra a few months ago while they were on tour,
Yeah.
and it hit
Yeah.
the way I guess a lot of people hearing it from an American's point of view, like people that are, English isn't their first language, and hearing the way people try to, reach out, not reach out, but like I guess try to find an interpretation that matches what you're trying to say. It's very humbling to hear it because like what they're trying to say, but like you just can't like get it right there. But
Totally.
but like you kind of see it though. It's like I know exactly what you're trying to say, and like the word may not be as impactful or whatever as like but like you'd be seeing like I think Luco said something it's like it's a very different kind of nice feeling, but he was trying to make it sound more grandiose, but in his version, I guess he was trying to say it as like less than, but I don't know. There's a dialect thing in there that adds a special likeness
Yeah.
to it, and I really
And
appreciate.
I think in an immediacy too, right? Like there's
Yes,
something
yes.
about like if you're cutting to the core of what it is you're trying to say, and you're
Hmm.
not adding a bunch of fucking flourish and a bunch of unnecessary words, because I feel like that's for me that's a trap when I try to write things. Like I feel like I get a little bit unnecessarily wordy,
Hmm.
and I think with the kind of music that Necrot does, and definitely with the kind of lyrical approach Nite has, it needs to be immediate. It needs to be like it 3 words, like
Yeah.
fucking
It
like
doesn't need to be a 35-cent word. It doesn't need to be
yeah,
like it's not Scrabble. It's like simple is
exactly,
key.
exactly, for sure.
No, no, dude. And shout out to Necro too. Their new record's really killer too.
Oh, it's the fucking best, man. And they're the best dudes ever. Sonny actually, I think, mixed the first night show ever. He was like,
Really?
yeah, he was the because he does live sound as well,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
he'll be like he's a front of house guy for some bands. But just in the Bay Area, he mixes everywhere. He's, from like the smallest little bars to like, the biggest theaters and venues. Super talented dude, and he's always been a big Night supporter and like really helped out with the band.
Absolutely.
We love,
I
we
just
love those dudes.
I
Love
love
them.
just seeing like the whole community, I guess, like everybody kind of just coming together, especially with like even like little small things like you brought up Luca with Necron. Now I know I've had a connection with them with that, and like I
Yeah.
guess like it's just the kind of tight knit stuff. Because like you guys both being California bands, you
Yeah.
guys,
Bay Area, yeah.
Haunt that comes to mind as well, and a
Oh
bunch
yeah,
of other
Fresno.
guys.
Trevor's a good friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Like they're all like it's all just so tight knit, and it's really cool like seeing them all kind of grow together. Like especially you guys, Haunt,
Yeah.
Necrot, even like kind of the same genre sort of, but out here like with like Eternal Champion, Summerland, like this
Yeah,
revitalization of like just this old classic heavy metal sound, but taken with like a modern like blackened, but almost sometimes epic twist onto it.
for sure.
And I
Yeah,
think
love all those bands.
I think that it's also like it's cool that a lot of those bands too are very much more accessible to metal, but can still be deemed as underground. Like it doesn't metal doesn't have to be like necessarily like the darkest, cavernous, most evil, guttural thing, but can still be structured like with good riffs, driving drums, and like rhythm and groove, and it doesn't have to be gored
Yeah.
out and stuff. It's much more accessible for people. Like if I show something like my girlfriend.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because we talk a lot about that exact phenomenon with Nite, where we're decidedly a heavy metal band, like obviously, but like in the same way that like a lot of 80s bands uh could kind of be more accessible to the mainstream because they maybe had, I mean, the stereotypes, they had a ballad or they had a slow song or
Yeah.
love song. But like even some of the more mid-tempo rocking songs or higher energy songs, if there was a hook or a
Mhm.
melody or there's something like memorable in a guitar lead, like how do you capture the imagination of like the average person that might not be a heavy metal fan? We have a little bit, I think, steeper hill to climb because we do have kind of like more blackened vocals. But our approach and our idea, and I think this has worked for us thus far, is that we're trying to capture the audience that loves traditional heavy metal, like 80s full-on heavy metal, and also people that love black metal, classic blackened stuff or black metal, like big Immortal fans or like think
Mhm.
people that actually will hear like, oh, like there is a little bit of that like kind of European black metal flavor in what you're doing. And if you can kind of bring those people together, you're broadening your audience and you're also like, for us, especially in the Bay Area, you know, we're supporters of all our friends that are in a heavy metal band. We don't like care about subgenres or we get along with like thrash bands and punk bands and grind bands and doom bands. Like everybody's part of the same fucking team because it's not that big of a world as you alluded to earlier. Like you kind of, if you stick around long enough, you end up meeting everybody. You know everyone, everyone knows you. So like you got to be cool and be nice to everyone and
No,
like don't burn
absolutely.
bridges because
It's
people
not
remember that shit.
clicky. It's not clicky, it
No.
seems. I noticed that with like a lot of the West Coast, like West Coast versus East Coast scenes. I noticed that a lot. I mean, Philly has like a lot of different scenes with their punk scene, their hardcore scene, their the
Yeah.
metal scene, and then that kind of intros into a little bit of New York and Baltimore too. But
Yeah. Yeah.
California generally, even like from the Bay Area down to LA, like it all just kind of like for California being so big, it all just kind of comes together as one. Like a lot of the Tank Crimes bands, a lot of
Oh
the
yeah.
Bay Area hardcore bands that are doing stuff, like all the house shows and DIY events that you guys are doing. Like
Sure.
it all kind of just fits together like nicely. Like there's
I
the CY Fest that happens out there is a
Oh
good
yeah.
example of
Yeah.
that. That
Oh,
that's like my favorite
wild.
festival I see.
It's wild. And I think there's a realization, I mean, aside from the stereotype that like people in California are like easygoing and like, yeah, peace, brother, like whatever. There is some of that. I'm not gonna lie. Like, part of the attraction for me wanting to live in California is like I don't want to live on the East Coast. I tried. It's like just it's not for me. I'm originally from Ohio. I grew up in like
Mhm.
northeastern Ohio, like Akron, Cleveland area. And
Okay.
like, I love being from the Midwest or whatever. And like, but like it was depressing as hell, man. Like I needed to get out. And so like being in California, like you kind of start to, as stereotypical and as silly as it is, you start to appreciate that kind of like mentality and that approach to just being like fucking be cool, man. Be mellow because like life's short and like don't fucking like stress yourself out about unnecessary stuff. And like also in the music scene and the heavy metal scene in particular, like you realize how small and connected all this shit is. Like you end up meeting everyone and like why not support your friends? Like all our friends are in killer bands. I don't give a shit what they sound like. I want to go out and support my friends, like because I love seeing when people are successful. Like it makes me happy when another band is successful. And like, so yeah, seeing Necrot go out with like the fucking Cavalera dudes and just be like playing like these theaters to like fucking rabid fans every night. Like that shit makes me happy. Like I'm so stoked for them. And because they deserve it.
No,
Because they fucking
absolutely. And because when somebody wins, everybody wins, really, because it kind of puts everybody else on the map with that stuff.
Exactly. It makes it so much easier, I think, to talk about, the Bay Area and people need to have like sort of a kind of like a larger sense of like what is the Bay Area? Because, it's known obviously historically in heavy metal history as the thrash mecca, right?
Hmm.
But like that shit's 40 plus years old now, right? Like,
Yeah.
dude, some of those
They,
dudes are still around
they're
and
on classic rock radio now.
basically, right?
Yeah.
But like a lot of those bands, Death Angel still plays. Like,
Hmm.
uh, we've met and know the dudes from Exodus, and like they're killer bands, but like a lot has happened since then. So like, what is the Bay Area sound now? And like some of that's I think defined by kind of like the Oakland death metal, sort of crusty, thrashy punk thing. Some of it is kind of the more eclectic San Francisco bands. If you think about like in recent history, like a band like Hammers of Misfortune or something that's a little more progressive, or like like San Francisco's a little bit more open to weird shit.
Hmm.
So like we feel like we try to kind of fit in with this idea that we're trying to sort of mash together two genres that don't always play well together and just kind of, see how that works in the world. And like I said, so far it's been a great reaction.
Yeah, it's like a cool blend of everything, and like going back to like those bands that have been around for 40 years. Like I saw Metallica like last week, and they sound great. It's good, but it's now equated to like kind of like the past in a sense. Like it's we already know what it is. I already know what I want to hear. I'm good.
Dude, totally.
I'm a seeker when it comes to finding new music, finding something new that's pays homage to the bands that we've listened to since we were kids. But I
Sure.
also want to do something that's in that vein, but it's also my homies.
Yeah.
'Cause
You're
that's
building on that history. And I think that's why for me, like having that connection to the past and like acknowledging the Bay Area history and then being like, cool, like that existed. Those dudes built a foundation, of what we're trying to do. And now where do we take it from there? Like what is the next evolution of that? And I don't know the answer, but we're trying to
yeah,
work on it.
definitely.
This episode is brought to you by Eargasm Earplugs. I've been going to concerts for over 10 years now, and I was not taking care of my ears at all. I would be going up to next to the speakers and blow my earring out the next day at work. I'm getting older, and I gotta take care of my body, and I still want to be able to enjoy the music that I love. So that's why I use Eargasm earplugs for every show that I go to. From large stadiums to smaller club venues, Eargasm earplugs are meant to protect your hearing in any scenario. And not just at live music events as well. From sporting events to monster truck rallies to firework displays to being around loud equipment in general, Eargasm earplugs are the most versatile thing when it comes to protecting your ears. They're super discreet, they fit snug in my ear, and they're extremely comfortable. All pairs of Eargasm earplugs come in a sleek metal case for easy storage and ready-to-use access for the next show. Make sure you guys use promo code the Blyzzrd10 when you check out for your first pair of Eargasm earplugs at eargasm.com. That's eargasm.com and use promo code the Blyzzrd10 for 10% off your first pair of Eargasm High Fidelity earplugs. Thanks again to Eargasm Earplugs for supporting the channel. That's again eargasm.com, promo code the Blyzzrd10. Now let's get back to the show.
And this record is killer for that too. This record sounds a lot more has a much more of a punch to it. There's a much more like of a drive to it that I noticed. Like I was listening to your guys' previous record and
Yeah.
before Cult of the Serpent Sun, and in comparison, like the production on this sounds a lot more punchier, it sounds more impactful, but it also has a lot more groove to it, I know. So I think that you lend a big hand with that on this
Cool.
record.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was a very conscious decision on our part. Just, due to the historical, unprecedented pandemics that kind of took over for a while. Our first two records kind of got fucked.
Yeah.
Our first album was released, speaking of, local Bay Area, people, Ben Murray, who runs Creator Destructor Records, originally put out our first album, Darkness, Silence, Mirror, Flame. He's kind of a legendary like hardcore supporter, puts out a ton of bands like Tsunami and like kind of like the younger like hardcore bands,
Nice.
like the kind of South Bay, San Jose kind of stuff. Killer dude. But the record came out the week of like the pandemic exploding, like the
Oh, like
first
when
lockdown,
everything shut
like
down.
March 2020. So like we didn't tour on that record. And so like whatever. And it's, there's nothing you can do about it. Like that's
Yeah,
the world.
yeah.
And then the second album, because like, the lockdown in San Francisco was so kind of like strict, we actually made that in isolation. We recorded
Okay.
our second album, Voices of the Cronian Moon, completely separate. Like I went in and tracked drums alone. Like I had my laptop and I just was like, cool, record. And I just would do like, I would do, like 4 or 5 takes of a song. knowing there was enough in there that we could, if we had to edit something, Van could kind of put it together. But like it was crazy. Like we basically didn't see each other. We would see each other over Zoom
Yeah.
and stuff. And like it was so weird. And the fact that we were able to make an album at all is a fucking miracle. Like
Yeah.
we're stoked. But we knew with this record, we're like, okay, cool. Like hopefully this fucking pandemic shit's over and we can tour on this record and we can support it. And we wanted it to come out swinging and be like
Mhm.
really impactful, punchy, have a little bit more grit and like grime to it, a little bit more edge, a little bit more, kind of like immediacy, but at the same
Yes.
time, not lose the melody and the hooks and like the really kind of like, uh, you know, atmospheric, almost like soundtracky guitar leads and things that kind of like, again, I think speak to that larger audience, people that might not listen to heavy metal. And especially on a track like The Mystic, we kind of like went back and forth on that song a lot because Van was really like, I don't know, that maybe this is too much of a departure. It's too like, is it too like slow or moody? Like, are people gonna get bored? And it's like, that's one of my favorite songs on the record because it's so different and
Mhm.
offers like a different side of the band. So it's not all just like the same thing for 8 songs in a row.
You know what the Mystic reminds me of a little bit?
What's that?
I was listening, so I was doing a bunch of other idea stuff for some other videos I was doing. I was going back and listening to one of the first Maiden records, some of the earlier Maiden records. It reminds me of that kind of break that goes into Remember Tomorrow.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what, because like I was getting the vibe of like, yes, I love it when bands add a different sort of, yeah, try something different because why not
Yeah.
go and see if it works? And but it still sounds like doomier
Yeah,
almost.
for
Like it
sure.
has like a much more doom metal element versus, the traditional new wave of British heavy metal sound that you guys have
Yeah.
been doing. But it just sounds darker because of that, but it doesn't have to have necessarily the galloping drums and that edge that you were speaking about, but still feel heavy and kind of doomy and kind of like eerie at some points too.
There's a lot more like synth in that
Hmm.
song. Like it's way more
Yeah.
like a bed of synths under the guitar, which again is it's different for us. And you absolutely hit the nail on the head with the Maiden reference because
Yeah.
Iron Maiden is Van's like that is it. Iron Maiden could be the beginning and the end of the story. Like they are everything to Van. He knows every note on every record and can play all the leads. Like he's just like one of the most rabid Iron Maiden fans ever. We all are.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Maiden is
differ
great.
we differ sometimes on some bands like Judas Priest. Me and Avi the bassist have we're the only ones who have like Judas Priest tattoos in the band.
Nice.
And the other two guys are like, they're okay. And we're just like, oh,
This is all right, but
you're
dude, like,
killing me. You're
come
killing me.
on.
But no, yeah, Maiden is the band for sure.
What era drummer of Maiden do you prefer the most? Are you a more Scott Travis guy or
See, the thing about okay, I mean this is a difficult question
yeah, I'm
because
sorry to go drop that right on you,
not,
but
not at all. I got into Maiden because of the first two albums, and I was listening to a lot more kind of like early like thrash and like more kind of like thrashy punk rock. So like the punkiness of the first two Maiden records, like and Diano's kind of like really straightforward vocal approach is what hooked me.
yeah.
Like that to me, those are the main records. And then Clive Burr's drumming is like it's sensational. Like I still always make a joke when like whenever I play like two hands on a hi-hat, like that disco beat, I'm like, oh, Clive Burr beat. Like it's like
Yeah.
because it's just it seeped into me in a way that like it's defining for how I kind of saw heavy metal music for me going forward, right? When I
Mhm.
kind of made a transition from like listening to almost exclusively like anarcho punk and thrash and like stuff in the 90s that was kind of like really where I was to them being like Maiden was kind of a gateway band to be like, oh, like these Maiden records and like, Metallica Ride the Lightning and the first Creator record. And like it's like that got me over to the other side. That said, like now, you know, I don't know. Now, like I appreciate all of their stuff now, and
Mhm.
all the like for me, it's like the original lineup, the original drummer, Clive Burr.
No, definitely. Definitely. Rest in peace, Clive Burr as well.
I know, R.I.P.
But yeah.
Can't live forever, but you can fucking burn bright while you're here.
Yeah, no, 100%. You were saying that you were also listening to a lot of like the 90s punky stuff. What were you listening to then?
So I lived in Pittsburgh,
Okay.
PA, originally from Ohio, but I moved to Pittsburgh in 1997, and I lived there from 97 to like the early 2000s. And I actually ended up playing drums for that band Rotten. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Rotten. Not I'm not too familiar, but I'll go check them out.
Check them out. At the time, for the like kind of like mid 90s anarcho punk, like super political, like hardcore
Hmm.
uh DIY bands, they were the pinnacle for me. Like I actually they were one of my favorite bands in high school. And because again, the scene is so small, I moved to Pittsburgh. I almost like the first fest I went to, like I met all the dudes in the band because they were all there hanging out. Even they weren't even playing. And we became friends. And then their drummer was a good friend of mine. He told me he was leaving the band, and I was like, oh, like I should fucking try for that band. And like it was killer. The best dudes ever. I got to tour Japan with them as like a fucking like I was like 20 or something. I was so young and like it was so killer. So you know, for right now, like obviously like conflict is really heavy on my mind with the death of their lead singer Collins. Like that's the conflict was a huge influence. Crass was a giant
Hmm.
influence. Like Doom, the
Yeah, the
UK
band, yeah, the
punk
UK band.
band. But like there was a lot of bands in the 90s that were sort of kind of uh building on that style and that history. Amoebix was a huge one because again, like incorporated sort of heavy metal elements, like early kind of doom and more like heavy metal guitar tones and some leads that were like for me, Amoebix became kind of like the gateway to Venom.
Hmm.
It's almost like I understood Venom more because of listening to Amoebix so much because like Amoebix was a punk band, but like they were kind of a doomy heavy metal band too if you put them in that category. It's
Yeah,
like it's
that
all
can yeah, if you think of going if you're listening to it going in there thinking about Venom, yeah.
yeah. And so like I think that's the stuff that's interesting to me is like how your eyes get open to like to new things that you might not be familiar with or open to previously. Because I think like, when you're young and you're idealistic, like I was, like if it was if it was like anything was like major label or like big budget or whatever, I was like fuck that, like that sucks, like I'm fucking hardcore, I'm punk, like it had to be DIY, it had to be like self-produced. But then it's like okay, yes, but Metallica fucking rips,
Yeah.
Motorhead rips. Discharge was like the touchstone band for me. Like I still listen to Discharge probably more than like any other band because again like that drumming, like the D beat is like it's in my bones, like I can't get rid of it. And
Hmm.
so but you listen to Discharge and it's like you kind of see how that can lead to a band like Sacrilege, right? And then it's like
Okay.
you're into more of the heavy metal territory, even though like I love those bands that kind of straddle both worlds where they're like punks listen to them, hardcore kids listen to them, heavy metal people listen to them. And it's like
Hmm.
that stuff is really appealing to me. And I don't even remember how we got on this question, but I love where
No, you're good. You're dude, I was just listening to all these bands you're naming, dude. I can hear all the influence in all of it, dude.
yeah,
And
yeah.
every
It's
band that
not
you
all
named like has just solid drumming.
totally, totally. And like it's funny, I've been listening to just speaking of podcasts, I've been checking out that Brian Slagle has a podcast, the 100 Greatest Heavy Metal Songs of All Time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like I went to the gym this morning and then on the way back I was listening to the Metallica episode on One.
Okay.
And just it's so interesting, like because yeah, it's like is one of the greatest heavy metal songs of all time? I don't know, but like he was placing it in this historical context of like that album was came out in 89, right?
Hmm.
It's the first album without Cliff. It's the first video Metallica
Yeah.
ever makes. And like,
It went
dude,
MTV and that's where they kind of
yeah,
went up from there.
that's how they got that. There was that stepping stone to them then making the Black Album and becoming the biggest heavy metal band in the world. But
Hmm.
like you think about like for me, like in 1989, I was 10 years old, which tells you how old I am. But like that was such a big, like I'd never heard music like that on the radio,
Yeah.
like on, like on MTV, like for prior to that, it was like Guns N' Roses was like the heaviest thing in the world, or AC/DC, too. But that tone of the guitars and just like the chugging, like, the down picking of Hetfield, like that was just like, what is this? And so like I get why that song was such a sort of like turning point for so many people. And also, again, like got so many people into heavy metal,
Yeah.
like
Because
that's
nobody was putting out stuff on the radio like that at the time. It wasn't seen as valued in
yeah,
the late 80s.
totally. No, because they didn't think they could sell it,
No.
like, oh, it's a fucking 7-minute song about war and death.
Yeah,
Like
no
the radio was
way.
like, no way, dude, we're not
And like,
touching this. Then it blew up and they were like, oh shit, we fucked
especially
up.
because it was like 8 minutes long too. Radio's not going to play an 8 minute song.
I guess they were talking about it on the podcast. There was a radio edit that went down to like 5 something, but even that, like pushing 5 minutes for a radio song is like, they want 3-minute pop songs
Yeah, they
because
want three
you
minutes.
can
Yeah,
sell, yeah, you can play more, you can sell more ads, you can like there's obviously a philosophy and a strategy to it, but I, it's cool to I just love reconsidering sort of songs like that where you're like, oh yeah, that was like a really important song, not only to heavy metal, but like to me. And I'm like, I didn't realize it. And it was cool to listen to Slagle talk about it and be like, damn, like that was a really fucking important, like a turning point, like a really big deal.
definitely. I'll have to check it out then.
It's a cool podcast. Yeah. I mean, Slagle is just like
He's
such
an encyclopedia on everything.
yeah, I love listening to him talk, and we have very similar tastes. Like his love for Thin Lizzy is like, I'm like, oh, like when I hear him talk about Thin Lizzy, I'm like, yes, he gets it. It's Thin
He
Lizzy for me.
understands.
Yeah, Thin Lizzy is it, man. That is the band. Like, I know I've just mentioned, I probably said that about 5 bands already, but Thin Lizzy is
Then
like,
Lizzie's up there with
I
Maiden,
can
Motorhead,
listen, yeah,
Discharge.
I listen to Thin Lizzy probably every day. At
Nice.
least one Thin Lizzy song, like every day, because it just if I'm in a bad mood, man, or I'm like shit sucks or work sucks or fucking whatever, like Thin Lizzy, I never feel bad. I never feel worse after listening to Thin Lizzy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
like it's
It
like
can only
medicine,
go up from here. I got Thin Lizzy on.
right? It's medicine. It's good. It's good for you.
Nah, definitely. So, how long have you been playing drums for?
Far, far too long for I should be a lot better, I guess. I probably started when I was like 12 years old. I had like I luckily came from a very musical family. My grandmother was a pianist, and she actually was a mezzo soprano, and she sang with like the Cleveland Orchestra and with the opera.
Really?
They were huge music. Yeah, my grandparents on my father's side were like huge music fans. And I think she kind of really instilled this appreciation for music in me from a very young age. So I started on piano, which I sucked at, and then I switched to violin, which I sucked worse at. And like I was like, this is hard, man. And then I started taking snare drum lessons, and like did the whole, like I joined like the school band and I did that all through high school. And I even considered almost going to school, or going to like university for music. And I'm glad I didn't, because I think it might have like killed. I know a lot of people that have kind of gone to study music at school, and it sort of kills their love for it, because then it becomes your job, right? It becomes
Yeah, it
work.
seems more scientific, more like math, doing math versus like making art.
Exactly. So yeah, I probably started playing when I was seriously playing around like 11, 12 years old, and luckily had a little bit of music education, behind me. So it gave me a good foundation. I took lessons, I would take lessons from from drum instructors in Ohio when I was younger, just to get the understanding of the drum kit and an appreciation for a wide range of music too. I played a lot of jazz and a ton of, like rock that was like definitely not like decidedly not heavy metal. And I think it's good because it gives you an appreciation and understanding of like uh all of the different rhythmic sequences that can make up a drum beat,
Mhm.
Like I feel pretty lucky and fortunate that I didn't just like start playing drums when I was listening to just straight up heavy metal, because I
Yeah.
think I'm a much different drummer,
Mhm.
Like it kind of, I know a lot of drummers who are excellent drummers, but like it's like they have one track where they're like, this is what I do. It's like it's all double kick, it's all fucking blast, or it's all like, like the fucking like straight up like, just polka beat. You're just like,
Yeah.
okay, those are cool, and those you need that for heavy metal, but like I was much more influenced by, the 70s rock drummers like Bill
Mhm.
Ward and John Bonham and Cozy Powell and like people that had swing. Like the swing
Mhm.
is what those 70s drummers were just killer at. They had great timing and they were great, musicians and had chops and could fucking play a drum solo, obviously. But like the thing that distinguishes, in my opinion, a good drummer is feel. And
Mhm.
you can't teach somebody feel. Like it's not like I can give you a book and you'll understand it. And like John Bonham is as conflicted as I am about him because well, for a lot of reasons, he had feel like he was just exuding feel. Like all of his like timing where he was pushing and pulling the beat and like coming in really late on a snare hit, like all that stuff made the song move in a way that it would never move if somebody was just playing like a really straightforward like
Like a
correct,
robot.
correct. Yeah, like a correct drum beat, like the drum beat that's in time, you're on the metronome, but it's boring.
Yeah, there isn't that feel there. There's no like life into it. It's
Yeah,
kind
the humanness, like the humanness of like not being afraid to like try something you might not pull off. Like the
yeah.
fact that there's shit on like Zeppelin records where like he doesn't quite make the fill or like it's a little weird,
Mhm.
and they kept it. Like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, he's human. He's not a drum machine.
I have a rehearsal session. It was my dad's record. It was a rehearsal sessions from Zeppelin 4, like the recordings from Zeppelin
Cool.
4, and
Oh,
like some of
cool.
the like fills that they do in for like Black Dog and Going to California are like really fun.
Yeah, because he's trying shit that he's not even sure if he can do it. He starts to
Yeah.
feel like, oh, I almost
Yeah.
got it. And you're
He's like
like,
trying to crescendo but like trying to up the beat PM as well.
yeah, totally. And you're just like, I don't know. Like as much as there's great modern heavy metal bands, and I appreciate a lot of new stuff coming out, like I think the thing that bothers me about the sound of things is that everything's become so mechanical. And so like,
Mhm.
you can sound replace all your drums. You can do a drum track and then like you can get Bonham snare drum and you can get Lars's kick drum sound from Injustice for All or whatever. Like and they end up sounding pretty like robotic and static and like I want the humanness. I want the feel. I want the like the
You could
looseness.
tell it's augmented.
Yeah, yeah, and
Hmm.
it feels like computers making music, and it's something that has to do with recording techniques and whatever shit that is too deep to get into here. But like, there is something about you can tell when somebody has really good feel and it starts to influence the rest of the band. When the drummer can kind of take the band to places where they might not normally go, and that's
Yeah.
like it's
No,
pretty cool.
absolutely. I think the thing that I noticed that too a lot, especially like in more extreme styles of metal, like in the more extreme or like brutal death and slam and all that, where drums are kind of seen less as an afterthought, more or less, like where it's like, yeah, we can have just as many, kick drum fills that we can get in there, put on the triggers and just blast away. Like it's great.
Yeah,
I love it. It sounds
yeah.
fantastic, but
Oh,
I'm a big fan of like Trey Williams from Dying Fetus. I'm a big fan of like the more technically precise versions of that, where it can still
totally.
sound like it can still because you can see it, you can see him playing it, and you can know that he's actually hitting those fills like per note.
When you see it live, it's phenomenal. And that to me is like those kind of bands, you need to see them live because if they can pull it off
Mhm.
live, I mean, a band like Cynic or
Yeah,
something, like, where you're just
or
like,
Defeated Sanity.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like how are
the
these guys? How are these guys? It's like it's mind blowing. Like the technicality is like it's off the charts, man.
it's
It's
so good.
nothing but respect.
No,
But to me, to
absolutely.
be to be perfectly honest, like to me, those recordings are like boring as shit. Like I can't listen to that stuff. Like I put a record on like that, and I'm like, I'll listen to one or two songs, and I'm like,
If you had your fill, you've had
I
your
kind
fill.
of, it's just not for me. And I'm not saying it's bad because I
Yeah, no,
respect
no.
people. And I'll go see them live because live it's like that's
Live
when I
is different. It's different live. Like hearing a band like Dying Fetus or Defeatus or any of these extreme metal death metal bands, because
yeah.
seeing them live is a completely different thing
It's
versus
like it's like
studio.
an acrobatic like feat of just the
Mhm.
dexterity of like it's amazing. I have so much respect for those bands.
No, definitely.
Mostly because I can't do it. I know how hard it is.
Yeah. The speaking of live, so you guys I want to talk a little bit about Hell's Heroes this year. How was that experience for you guys
So we actually did Hell's Heroes last year.
last year?
Yeah, we didn't do this one because we'd done it. So we've done two Hell's Heroes appearances. So Christian, who runs the festival, is in a band called Necrofire, and they're
Mhm.
on Season of Mist also. So we met, kind of through the label and through knowing everyone sort of at the label, and he really dug Nite, and so he asked us to do, I think the first Hell's Heroes we did was 2022.
Okay.
Um, and we got to do the warm up show, and I think Exciter was the headliner that night, which was fucking rad, and got to play on the
Nice.
big stage and everything. It was cool. So we did a tour around that, and then we did last year, we did 2024, and we also did kind of a western half of the US tour around that. And that was incredible because we got to play on the big outdoor stage.
Yeah,
And
yeah, the grand stage.
dude, it was wild, man. And it's always, that challenge of being a band, because like we're not a big band. Like we're on
No.
a good label, and like we have some distribution, and we've gotten good reviews, and we've done some tours, but like we're not playing, theaters or anything. Like we're playing clubs and bars,
Yeah.
which is fine. We're comfortable with that. But to be able to translate your show from like a small like 200 cap room to playing in front of thousands of people on a big stage, it's like that's a pretty big thing. My dog just burst into the room.
That's okay.
So like that was a cool challenge for us to see how we could translate the live show to a bigger stage and to a bigger audience. And it was great, man. It was exhilarating. And it was also really cool, just more Bay Area love. There was like all of our friends from the Bay Area were there, like
Hmm.
watching our show, like in Houston outside at this festival. It was just like, it was so killer, man. Like, and our friend, a good friend of ours took photos. And just such a well-run festival. I have to be honest, I think it's the best heavy metal festival in the US.
Hmm.
Shade to MDF or any of those guys, but like Christian runs a really good fest, and it's a really cool mix of bands,
Hmm.
important historical bands. I mean, like the fact that we got to play on the same bill with like Rotting Christ and like
Hmm.
Sodom, which
That's
by the way, the Sodom set was like,
mind blowing.
dude, it was wild. Such a good festival. And so we'll go back anytime he wants to have us. It's like it's such a good time.
It
Um,
looks like a killer time.
it's and just like really well run, and like the fact that like there's no overlap, you can see every band, and it's like you get to go from outside to inside to the theater. All the like pre-parties and after parties are so cool. Like it's just, I don't know, man. I know like as a Californian, I'm supposed to hate Texas because that's like there's this dumb rivalry, but fucking Texas rules, man. I love Texas.
Texas is cool.
It's killer.
I like that the fest too, like you kind of brings back that sort of community because it's like it doesn't really cater specifically to one genre like how MDF would cater to like mainly death metal and thrash
Totally.
metal and stuff. But I think that Hell's Heroes has a really good blend of it all, but really centers around just heavy metal as a whole sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like Queensryche played, Crimson Glory, um, you guys, Riot City. I can go on and on the
Oh
list.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Those guys are great.
Like
Yeah,
it,
Queensryche set was phenomenal.
nice.
And dude, Todd's voice sounded just like it was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounded like the record, which like is wild because like he's singing somebody else's words and somebody else's vocal parts.
Hmm.
He's nailing it. So, yeah, it was rad, man.
And
Such a good thing.
I love Jeff Tate's vocals too. Like Silent Lucidity is still one of my favorite songs of all time, even though
For
it's a soft
sure.
ballad song. But Jeff Tate is one of the
100%.
greatest. All right, so kind of closing out the interview. So you guys are getting ready to leave for tour in a couple weeks. Going out on tour with Savage Master, and
Yeah.
what can we be expecting for the future with the band after this tour? You guys are doing a little East Coast run.
Yeah, so well, it's a big deal for us because we've actually never been to any of these cities, right? So like,
Really?
yeah, so we've mostly done because all of the fests and tours we've done have been on the western half of the US. We're a California-based band. It's pretty hard to get to the East Coast unless you can do something like this where you have a headliner because we're main support for Savage Master. They're kind of Kentucky-based band. They've played these kind of circuits a lot more. So this is the first time we've played any of these cities. And like so everything on like the Eastern Seaboard, we're going into a little bit to the Midwest, we're doing like Chicago and stuff, and then we have three shows in Canada. these are all cities we've never been to, and we're just super stoked to be out with our good friend Savage Master because we think they're one of the best heavy metal bands going today, and they're over in Europe right now with that New York band Sanhedrin, and so like
Nice.
they're having a great time over there, and they're going to be all like jet lagged but tour tight, and it's gonna be a really good time. We've known those folks forever, and they're just such a killer band. And it's really cool because they put out a great album
Hmm.
right around the same time we put our album out. Our album came out in March. I think theirs actually might have come out in March, also maybe a little bit later. But like we're both touring on new albums. We're gonna have a shit ton of merch.
Hmm.
Shows are gonna be super fun. We've got great openers, like as you mentioned at the top of the interview. Like every city is gonna be a great time. So we're just super excited to get over there and play all these spots we've never played.
Excellent, dude. Excellent, man. And it's going to be a lot of fun, dude. I know a
Yeah,
lot of these people are really excited for you guys.
rad.
Hell
We
yeah,
are
man.
we are excited too. And then yeah, to answer your original question, after that we got to get to Europe because we've never been to Europe, which is weird because we're on like a European label and one of our band members is from Europe. So, we're just
Yeah.
we'll get over there eventually, but it's finding, I think we've had a lot of offers and we have a European booking agent.
Hmm.
I think it's just finding the right fit and the right band to go out with and the right festival. I think
Yeah.
we're old enough now as humans, not as a band, but we kind of need to be a little bit more picky about what we do just because we have like families and like work and
Nah, 100%. You
shit.
gotta make sure the bills are paid and the lights are on.
It's hard to do when you live in a city like San Francisco and everything's fucking expensive.
Dude, I can imagine that, dude.
It's
Fuck that.
wild. Yeah, we're making it work.
Jesus. That's why everybody needs to go and support Nite so that we can be rock stars forever.
Exactly. Buy all our merch.
Buy all the merch, max out
It's
your credit cards.
Dude, it's gonna be sick. I'm actually really excited about the merch too. We got some stuff we're only doing for this tour. And,
Nice.
obviously have all our albums and shit too. But like, yeah, I'm stoked. I can't wait to get out there.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Well, Patrick, thanks for taking the time to chat with me, man. I genuinely appreciate it. Everybody, do you have any last minute things you want to shout out? Any other personal things you're doing or promoting or anything like that?
No, other than this tour, I mean, it's been all focused on tour. I would say like just thanks to our label, thanks to Heavy Talent who booked this tour, and definitely like our brothers and sisters in Savage Master. We can't wait to get out there on the road with them. It's gonna be sick.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Make sure you guys get your tickets too for the East Coast run with Savage Master and Night. They're going to be going on the road starting next week, I think. So it's going to be coming up soon. I'll have this up by the time the tour kicks off. So get your
Yeah,
tickets available now. Make sure you guys go pick up Cult of the Serpent Sun. It's out now via Season of Mist Records. Go pick it up on CD. I'm probably going to be maybe expecting vinyl because I'm a vinyl holic. Get
you
those
got
in the
it.
works sometime soon. But yeah, Pat, thanks again for hanging out. Make sure you're following Night on all their social medias. Pat, do you have an Instagram of your own or anything like that?
I do. I'll talk about the Night Instagram first. It's just Night Metal, and then my personal one is Ginger Saint Vitus
Ginger
because
Saint Vitus.
I'm a fucking ginger.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, thanks again, Pat. Thanks again for taking the time, dude. Thank you guys again for watching. If you guys are joining us, make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, comment down below. Make sure you go pick up the merch down link below. Links to all the Night stuff as well down below. Ticket links, CD links, merch links, everything's down below. Thanks again for everyone for watching. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care and bye bye.